you sick or what? Hey, bath toys. Oh, that's cold. Oh. Come on, I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want to chew it in the neck. Whoa, what was that? Oh, what a pig. Hey, what happened to your fur? Excuse me, but I'm the new chicken monitor here. Hey, you gotta fix this dog door. It's a little small. I'm afraid I may have left a very important phone around here, and here we go. What the? Help! It's Birdzilla! I swear I'll never eat a nugget again!
Hi, it's Christopher.
And Amanda.
And welcome back to
Date Night at the Movies.
And this week is a 30th anniversary coming around the corner, February 3rd, actually, of 93. It's Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey.
And this marks our
50th episode. That's quite the accomplishment for this little podcast. So Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey is an American adventure comedy film and a remake of 1963's The Incredible Journey, which was based on a 1961 novel of the same name by Sheila Burnford, followed by Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco in 1996. The film is directed by Dwayne Dunham and stars Michael J. Fox, Don Amici, and Sally Field. And like we do on this podcast, we talk about memories of the movie that we're covering in this particular episode. This week it's Homeward Bound. Amanda, what are your memories of Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey?
This one I actually have some because I saw this probably when it first came out. And I had it on VHS, back when VHS was a thing. And I think I watched it, I don't know, at least twice a year. I watched it a lot with my sister when I was babysitting her or being home in the summer. And I just loved it. Of course, I think you can pick out who my favorite character would be.
Yes.
It would be the cat, because I love cats. But I always had good memories of it. And it's probably been at least maybe 15 years since I last saw it. And, I mean, we can safely say I bawled at the end, which I didn't think it was going to be as blubberous as it was. But, I mean, I don't think you can watch this and not feel any sort of, what's that Disney joy that you get at the end of the movie?
Yeah, there's definitely Disney magic in this movie. And for me, I had seen this when I was a child, but don't really remember it. I know I might have seen it in school, when it was like movie day at school, when they bring up the old VHS with the
I forgot. I've probably seen that
television with the wheels on it. So that's probably the only memories I have of this. I have not seen it since. So when I was pleasantly surprised when we watched it to do the notes that how magical and this movie was and that it still holds up. I think it still could be a movie that children and adults can enjoy in 2023.
So you haven't seen the sequel?
I have not.
I don't mind the sequel, but much like other sequels, the original is better.
This holds up, right?
Yeah.
So the film holds an 87% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 30 reviews. And Roger Ebert, the king of reviews in Chicago, the Chicago Sun-Times gave the movie 3 out of 4 stars, and this is what he had to say. It has a certain craftsmanship and an undeniable charm, and if you find yourself watching it with a child, you may end up liking it almost as much. This film did gross $41.8 million. I don't know what the budget was. I could not find that information on this film, so I don't know if this was a winner or a loser, but that it did rake in $41.8 million, and it was in a limited release, but on its opening weekend and its wide release, which was February 12th to the 15th of 93, it ranked third. Homeward Bound: Incredible Journey raked in $8.1 million that weekend. Also in the theaters was the top 5 here. We always go through. So first was Groundhog Day, $14.6 million. Bill Murray, Andy McDowell. Summersby.
That's a cider.
It is a cider in Canada. 9.9. I don't know, it might be in the U.S. too. I have not spotted it. 19.9 million. Aladdin at number 4 at 6.7 million.
Oh, I can't wait to do that one.
Loaded Weapon 1 was number 5 at 6.1 million.
Don't know that one.
It's a spoof of the Lethal Weapon franchise.
Oh, okay.
All right, so what can you tell us about our plot?
Well, first of all, before we do that, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead and if you got this in your notes, but do you have any notes about the novel?
I do not. Go ahead.
Tell us how it was based on a novel?
Yes.
So the novel was written by Sheila Burnford. The last name of the family in the movie is the Burnford family.
Are you sure it's not the Seaver family?
No.
They
become
the Seavers.
The Seavers because of Bob.
Okay.
But the mother
is Burnford. Okay. All right.
And I just found out that the novel was based on the three pets traveling through northern Ontario.
Okay.
In the Canadian wilderness.
Okay.
So nothing to do with the States.
Okay.
But the book was based in Canada.
So that's even better. It's
there we
Canadian
go.
podcast and a film with Canadian ties.
Yeah. So.
And a Canadian voice for the dog, Michael J. Fox.
There you go. So the quintessential Disney music starts it off. I always have to talk about that. I love that sound. It's so nostalgic. Followed by whimsical classical music, introducing the title in a nice orange font. I don't know why you think it's great that I talk about the font all the time, but anyways, I have to.
That's character to the pod.
I have to. We're introduced to the narrator, Chance, who is a selfish and free-spirited American bulldog. Not my favorite.
Why is he not your favorite?
I don't know. I just find him obnoxious.
I think he's charming.
But I don't like the look of him either.
I like the dog. I think Michael J. Fox is superb as the voice of Chance.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that works.
I think that's what's making this movie as enjoyable as it did for me.
Right. He talks about how he got his name and basically was given a second chance after living on the road, being caught and put into the pound. He said that coming to live with, Jamie and the Burnfords, it was never really his home because the home belonged to them. So he still has this disconnect, which is a common theme throughout the entire movie. So that dog is then seen rummaging through somebody's luggage, tearing at a shirt, some underwear, and he's interrupted by Sassy, the cute little pampered Himalayan cat owned by Hope Burnford, the middle child there. Chance explains that he's the pet of Jamie, who's the youngest, but then says right after, but I don't need anyone. So he immediately dismisses his owner, where I think it's cute because Sassy, identifies herself as Hope's pet. Like, that's who she's loyal to.
That's her person.
Exactly. And I think that's really sweet. Chance and Sassy share their home with Shadow, who's a beautiful, wise old golden retriever. I like this dog.
This is Don Amici's one of his final roles, I believe. He died later that year. And the kid who plays Jamie, if you recognize him, it's a reunion of sorts for him and Don Amici. He was also Don Amici's grandson in Folks, which we also covered.
Oh, yeah, we love Folks. Well, I did.
Oh, you did.
No, I didn't put that together, but that makes sense. So Shadow is owned by Peter, who's the oldest boy, and he's definitely, very loyal and true to him. So Sassy and Chance start bantering back and forth about tearing the blouse. They insult one another, and then they start tearing through the house, barking, meowing, making a mess. While outside, where it's nice and peaceful, the children's mother, Laura Burnford, is marrying Bob Seaver.
So then they become essentially
the Seaver Burnfords.
Family.
Yeah. Chance then finds himself in the kitchen, starts following the chef around, keeps telling him to drop the food, because that's what he wants. He's like our dog, only comes out when there's food. Meanwhile, Shadow is lying down properly, behaving, but when he sees Chance go towards the turkey, he starts barking to, bring attention to it, because he says that's enough, you need to stop. Chance then heads off to the other rooms of the house to try to smooch food from all the guests. He unhappily gets broccoli from one man and a shoot away from older ladies who are disgusted by him. Then he comes over to Sassy, and Sassy proves that she can get food without even trying. She acts all sweet and cute around Hope and is successful in getting 2 pieces of shrimp just by acting like she doesn't want it. I mean, it works. Cats are amazing.
Not these cats.
Not these cats. Our cats beg. And,
for food.
And meow. And
yes.
Yeah, especially at nighttime. She tries to tell Chance about how cats rule and dogs drool. That's her mantra. Meanwhile, outside, Shadow is being a good dog playing basketball with Peter. It's very clear they have a great relationship. Bob comes over, and from him, we learned that they're not taking the pets with them to San Francisco, and that the animals are going to have to stay with some friend of their mother's.
I think her name's Katie, I think.
Kate, yeah.
Kate, yeah.
Peter's concerned that Shadow will think that they abandoned the animals and starts to argue with Bob about leaving. So we get a sense that maybe Peter's not too happy about this new marriage. And I don't think
he's a big fan of
Bob.
Mr. Seaver in general.
Yeah. So it's time to cut the wedding cake that the mother of the bride made. It's beautiful. It's like, I think 5 tiers. 5 or 4. But everyone becomes disgusted because Chance is devouring it. He's like covered in the buttercream and he's just an awful mess.
Yeah, so the mischievous Chance finds the wedding buffet table irresistible and soon is wearing the wedding cake ear to ear. The dog betraying Chance loves whipped cream. A lot of the cream was spread over his face and would not, so he did not have to consume too much of that for the scene.
That's smart.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't want the dog to get sick.
Having all that sugar and whatever junks in that cake.
Yeah. So the next morning, we see Hope is trying to put Sassy on the seesaw to play, probably very gently with her. But Chance then runs at the seesaw and catapults Sassy into the air, and she, of course, lands on her feet in the big litter box, also known as the sandbox.
Yeah, so when Chance chases Sassy onto the seesaw and gets catapulted through the air, he said that's why you call it a catapult.
Poor cat.
The scene was done in many cuts. The seesaw lifted up to a height of about 4 feet, and the cat was filmed on it. The cat was then filmed as she was tossed from the trainer to trainer onto a blanket being held by several people. The cat seemed to love it and purred throughout. The camera angle facing up made it look as though the cat was at height greater than it was, and the fake cat was also filmed flying through the air to give the perception of distance. Edited together creates a spectacular scene. For the cat's landing, she was dropped by a trainer from the height of around 2 feet and landed in the sand. Yeah. So this was in my notes. I think I brought it up to you today before we recorded that this is one of the rare talking animal movies in which the animal's mouth does not move in sync with their lines. Do you have a problem with that, or do you think that it takes away from the movie? Because a lot of people said the charm of the original. We both were kind of surprised to know there was an original. I only known this version, but they said they relies, and like Disney did a lot in the 60s, relies heavily on narration. Where here you don't, you have like some other bad, I guess, kid-friendly pet movies where you see like really horrible lip movements that is not actually coinciding or in sync with what the animal is saying. So I think it works here. Yeah, I don't see what the big problem is, why people are having an issue with that, but I think it actually works. It would have been sort of hokey to see their lips moving and not actually in sync with what is being said. And I think that would have taken away from the presentation of the film.
And what I told you was that it seems more genuine when that animals can communicate with one another.
That's right.
So
we can't hear them, but they're having their own
conversations. Just like whenever we talk to our animals, they can't comprehend everything we're saying. Even if I'm trying to have a conversation with Phoebe, the only word she's going to hear is food, right? And so I think that by their mouths not moving at all is what made it more realistic.
So there's more on that. It says, as I said, the original in 1963 did not feature animals having voices, but instead relied on narration, which a lot of Disney did. I think Old Yeller, we have
I never saw that
Make
one.
Mine Music, where there's a lot of movies that are, the narration is what made Disney the powerhouse that it became. The voicing of the animals requires significant suspension of belief in the remake, as the animals speak perfect English to one another with modern slang and colloquialisms.
Mm-hmm.
Yet Annette cannot comprehend the humans who speak the same language. This makes it challenging to believe that the pets don't understand why they're being left behind.
Okay, but I still think it's realistic. Just because they're speaking English, that's so that it's like reading subtitles.
That's right. I don't have a problem with it.
No, I don't
understand
either.
why some people have to go ahead and just get real granular and make such a big deal of this issue that to me,
I think if you have their mouths moving, it looks more phony. Our animals don't move their mouths.
yes, they don't.
So that would be fake.
Yes.
Um,
Can't please all moviegoers.
no. So after the sandbox incident, Shadow becomes very concerned because he sees that Bob is carrying luggage out to the car. So Shadow's the smart one, right? And he's the one who's clued in with everything that the family's doing. And he starts to get a little bit apprehensive. As the family is temporarily moving to San Francisco because of Bob's new job, they drive the pets to this big ranch belonging to Kate, who is Laura's college friend. Chance is excited and starts chasing the chickens and loves all the new smells. Peter is not happy when Kate, says that she has to leave for a few days and do like a horse show or something, a cattle run. And basically some rando neighbor is going to go over and watch them.
Frank.
Yeah, Frank. But,
yeah.
to Peter, it doesn't matter who it is. Hope is very sad to hand over Sassy to Kate. Jamie is trying to play with Chance and the Frisbee. Bob throws it far away for Chance to go get it, and he does without a second thought. Meanwhile, Jamie tells Bob that he hopes that Chance doesn't forget him, where Chance could really care less about the family leaving. Shadow doesn't understand why Peter is sad, and just lets, him keep hugging the dog. And at that point, it's really heartbreaking to see that the animals are being left behind.
So there's other pop culture references in here that sort of inside baseball here. So when the Seavers are driving to Kate's ranch, Chance says, "Bat dog," out the window. This is a reference to Batman, where Michael J. Fox was considered for the part of Robin in the 1989 film, but when the filmmakers were considering introducing him to Batman, but was ultimately scrapped.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
It is. So it would have been a good role for him as Robin, I think, with Michael Keaton in 1989. But so when they also arrive at the farm, Chance chases a flock of chickens. This scene was shot primarily in cuts, where the chickens were filmed separately. The chickens would be fed, and then the trainer would wave his hands to make the chickens flurry away. The dog playing Chance was not really interested in the chickens. As you can see here, yeah, in the narration, he seems like he's loving this. He wants to make the McNuggets, or he wants to have a feast here. I think he says something, and there's a KFC reference in there too. I think I've died and gone to Kentucky, he says.
Yeah.
So the trainers would have to give hand signals and verbal commands to stay, look in various directions, and to stop, etc., to create the impression that he was after the chickens, but he was merely obeying his trainer's commands.
Nice. So, even though they're animals, they're very skilled actors.
They are.
And they're very well trained, and they're so believable. It just amazes me.
Much to the contrary, I heard a lot of people say it's difficult to work with children and pets in movies. But so the scene where Chance gets into the chicken coop and the chickens scatter was filmed in basically the same manner. When a large turkey appears and chases Chance, the scene was shot in cuts, filming the turkey and the dog in much the same way as the chickens and the dog were filmed.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying that ties into that where
yes,
he wasn't all that interested in the poultry that was there.
Which we're led to believe is not the case.
Yes.
So back in the car, Peter and Hope are extremely pissed off when they find out that, they're not going back every weekend to see the animals. Because the parents are saying, it'd be ridiculous to keep driving back and forth just for the animals.
So the sequel is called Lost in San Francisco. So does this movie, did this family relocate to San Francisco in the sequel?
Yes,
okay.
With the animals.
With the animals.
They decided to take them with them, but then, as it says, they get lost. Their mother then says it's not like the animals know the difference, which is kind of sad. Because, maybe they don't know all the details of timing and everything, but all they know is their owners left them. That's all they're left to know. Shadow and Sassy miss their owners immediately, but Chance sees it as an opportunity to relax and be free. He says it always happens where humans just abandon their animals. And he quotes, "People use you, then lose you." So that's really sad. Shadow is lethargic, very concerned about not being there to protect Peter. Chance just wants the food that Kate's bringing to them. Sassy is ticked because the food wasn't warmed up to her liking. She gets her tail stepped on. This is not the resort that would be considered a nice vacation for Sassy. Chance then goes to eat her food, which upsets her even more. And then I have the comment that you had just made about the turkey. He's terrified by the turkey, and that was the opening clip.
Calls it Birdzilla,
yeah,
I believe.
Birdzilla, in the opening clip to this podcast, because it was
probably a wild turkey too at that, so that would be quite the challenge for this dog.
The kids try to call the pets on the phone, but Shadow just whimpers and says he doesn't know why people do this because they just don't understand a darn thing. But he barks, and that makes Peter happy. Later in the week, Kate goes on a cattle run, leaving those animals to be looked after by her neighbor Frank. She writes a note that's 2 pages long, but you see 1 page falls down, and only half the note is left. Shadow is very upset about them being left alone. Chance says it's like being in the pound again and being locked up when she slams the door on him. Shadow refuses to believe that his boy would leave him and decides that he's just gonna go home. He knows that something is wrong and he's gonna do something about it. Since the gate is locked, he climbs onto the tree trunk and just jumps right over the fence effortlessly. And Sassy follows him right away. It takes Chance a little bit longer to decide to follow, but then Birdzilla the turkey comes out, and that's enough to make Chance scale the fence and join the other 2 pets.
Yeah, so when the animals leave the farm to accomplish this, the scene was shot in cuts. Food was placed on top of a log, which was put alongside the fence. The trainer was on the other side of the fence by the camera. Each animal would jump on the log and get the food, and then would jump over the fence, responding to the call of a trainer who was coaxing it over the fence with more food. Camera angles made the fence appear higher than it actually was, and the ground... excuse me here.
Did you lose yourself?
Yeah, and the ground softened and padded up with straw and covered with the leaves and grass so that the landing was soft.
Well, that's good.
As Shadow leads the way and Chance and Sassy follow, the animals went from point A to point B, with one trainer releasing the animals as another trainer called them. Along the way, they see a raccoon, a skunk, a snake, and an owl. And as Chance is chased, the skunk, as we see here in the film, ran from point A to point B with food as a reward, and the 2 animals were filmed separately.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I'm just jumping ahead.
Well, no, that's the notes I have when they escape the farm.
Yes. So when they escape the farm, though, you didn't know that there's strong orchestra music playing.
There is, yes.
Which then is like seen throughout the whole movie.
It gives it that dynamic feel to it, right?
Yep.
That this is something that they're on this incredible journey, as the title states.
Yeah. They head into the rocky mountainous wilderness of the Sierra Nevada, with Shadow leading. Sassy struggles. She breaks her nail. She complains. She's a cat. That's what she does. Chance is tired of hearing Sassy complain, and Shadow just keeps teasing Chance about being such a young pup, being more tired than the old dog. Meanwhile, Frank shows up to feed the animals, so I mean, credit to Frank. He's doing his job. But because half of Kate's message to him is lost, he's led to believe that she's taken the pets with her, even though it doesn't make sense. He's like, okay, whatever. He goes to feed the other farm animals. Our pets reach the highest point of their journey, but they don't see the house. There's only several mountains. And so Chance...
The scenery here is really nice.
It's beautiful.
Very, very well done. The cinematography here, you get that feel that the wilderness is as vast or as really... can these animals make it out there? That's what's the whole thing here that brings you back to. And that's what makes this really an incredible journey, again, as the title states, because think about it, these are domesticated animals out in the wilderness to fend for themselves.
Our dog and cats
would not make it. No. They would get gobbled up by a grizzly bear.
And Phoebe would starve
Yes.
because she can't get her own food. So out of the pets on the movie, Shadow's the only one who's saying he's going to go home and he'll find it somehow. He's very determined. Chance and Sassy are a little bit hesitant, but Chance says that he'll go, just to make sure that Shadow's okay. Sassy says she can't be left alone, so she follows after them, reluctantly. Here Chance comes across that raccoon and the skunk, but runs away after smelling it. He should have learned his lesson, because a little bit later he gets a little bit too close to a porcupine. He should have learned that lesson and just walked away.
But he's adventurous. He's young. He's vibrant. He's interested in seeing what nature has to offer him.
That's true. After a night spent in fear of the woodland noises, and to their credit, there is a lot.
Yeah.
And there, crunches of leaves, hooting of owls, slithering of snakes. There would be a lot out there. The group stops to catch breakfast at a river. Chance really struggles with catching the fish, and then asks Shadow, well, how did he get his? He tells Chance that Sassy got it for him. So this, kind of forces Chance to ask Sassy for help. Sassy says that she'll do it if, he admits her mantra. So you hear him say, cats roll, dogs drool, but she forces him to say it louder and more convincingly. And then she just scoops out a fish without any issue. So she's very
resourceful.
Resourceful, yes. However, 2 little black bear cubs interrupt Chance and try to steal his fish. He gets upset at them, but then a large brown bear causes the group to retreat. Okay, so then here's my trivia. Or did you write it down?
You have it. I have a note, but you take it here.
What's the bear's name? The bear actually has
Bart
a name.
the bear.
It's Bart the bear. He's actually like a Hollywood actor.
Yeah, he was a Hollywood stand-in bear, I guess.
Bear.
He's a working bear, so.
Well, not anymore. It's his birthday. It's
Today?
coming up. Well, no, January 19th.
Okay.
But he died in 2000 at the age of 23.
So that's a pretty good lifespan for, I don't know what the lifespan is of a bear, but that's good. So to further up on that note, a bear cub who stands up and growls. This scene was also shot in cuts. It seems to be a trend in this movie here.
Yes.
There was no contact between the cat, the dog, and the bear. The bear was given hand and verbal commands to stand up, smile, paw, etc. For safety purposes, wires undetected by the camera were placed beneath the animals.
Yeah, I mean, how would you, train Bart the bear? How would he become an actor? Did he interview? How do you go into the wilderness?
What was his filmography? Was he in any other movies other than
I should actually check. Do you mind if I go check?
No, I'm quite interested actually, because this bear
bear
is, to get its own Wikipedia page, to get, what is that site we follow on Instagram that tells us the birthdays? He's mentioned in this, so this is a pretty big deal, this bear. I don't know.
Do you know he was born in Baltimore?
He was born in Baltimore, okay.
But he died in Utah.
He died in Utah, good place.
Yeah.
Wasn't this movie shot in?
I didn't actually
geographical area.
I didn't see where that was, which is why I asked if you had notes. Okay, this guy's been a lot. Windwalker, The Great Outdoors, The Bear, White Fang, The Giant of Thunder Mountain, 12 Monkeys, Walking Thunder.
Wow.
Meet the Deedles.
Horrible movie, by the way.
Okay. And then he was also in advertising commercials.
So he's...
do you want to guess? Like one of them?
Subaru?
No. Okay, one of Kodiak.
Okay,
like
Kodiak. Yeah, the Kodiak bear.
And Labatt Blue. And also Tums.
Oh, wow. So this bear has got quite the resume here.
Yeah. Anyways.
Rest in peace, Bart.
I hope we've given him his just due. He's probably never been talked
We've
about.
got him his flowers on this podcast, so Bart the Bear, if you're listening, you're probably not because you're dead. But we're acknowledging your body of work here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't pause this. Oh my God. Okay. So at another river, a bigger river actually, Sassy refuses to swim across to follow the dogs and instead tries to cross using a wooden path further downstream because she's dainty and that's what cats do, right? They're not going to swim. Cats hate water, except for our Penelope, who is very fascinated by water. Halfway across, the wood breaks and she falls into the river. This is my least favorite moment of the movie because you're led to believe that she doesn't make it. Shadow tries to save her, but she goes over the waterfall to her apparent death. And I said it's the worst moment in the movie. No one wants the cat to die unless you're somebody who hates cats, which I don't understand how that's possible.
Yeah, so do you have anything else before I get into the notes here extensively about this scene?
No, that's it.
Okay,
it's just
so
that
when
I was very sad and scared, wasn't I?
Yeah, but you kind of know that the cat's gonna make it, as you see in the poster. The cat's alive during the sequel, but we didn't know this at the time. So if you're watching this as a young child in the theater in 1993,
when I was 7,
exactly, you're really.
I'm distraught.
You're distraught because you don't know if the cat makes it or not, and that could be part of the story. Maybe the cat doesn't make it.
How awful would that have been?
It would have been awful because
this movie would.
It's much better as a trio than a duo, but
the score would have been vastly different.
So when the two dogs swim across the river, Sassy doesn't want to swim, so she finds another way of crossing by way of rocks and a log in the stream. The cat had been trained on her compound to jump from one rock to another in a stream. She also became accustomed to the water and could swim quite well. In the film, the rocks and log had been strategically placed so the cat could jump from one to the other. And when Sassy goes into the river, she is put in shallow water with a harness on her. She was then released by one trainer and swam to a second trainer who had a teacher attached to her harness. There were also 4 people underwater to monitor for safety, and several cats had been trained for this scene. Each was only in the water for 8 seconds. There are many shots of the cat being swept by the fast-moving river as she heads up to a very high waterfall. This was filmed by using a fake cat. So there you are. No That's real fake. Cat went over. Obviously, they're not going to put a real cat over Rapid River here. There are also close-up shots of the cat being frightened, and the cat, and then a shot of Sassy going over the waterfall. This was shot in many cuts. Fake cats, mechanical cats, and real cats were used. When the real cat was used, she was not in the river, but a heated pool. And when Shadow attempts to rescue Sassy and goes into the water, he's basically going from point A to B in the water. Sassy is eventually rescued by an old woodsman who finds a lump of matted fur at the water's edge. The lump of matted fur is a fake cat, and when he picks Sassy up, it's the real cat used here for the shot. And the cat was prepared for this scene by being sprayed down with warm water, and the scene was accomplished in 2 takes.
Well, that's good. Makes me feel much better about the fate of the cat.
Yes.
Do you have a note about how many animals played these pets?
I do not. Do you?
I do.
How many?
So, the dogs, Shadow and Chance, were each played by 4 different dogs.
Okay.
But the main, I guess there was always one main one. Shadow was played by Ben.
Ben, okay.
Ben the dog.
Is Ben still with us?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
Chance was played by Rattler.
Rattler, okay.
And Sassy was played by 10 cats.
Yes, that's what I had in the notes here. Several
that's
cats.
What I asked.
I don't have the names though. You've went on above and beyond here and got us names of the animals.
The main Sassy cat was named Tiki.
Tiki.
Yeah.
One of Aiden's friends was Tiki, a little dog that was one of our neighbors.
Well, maybe it's a good word for a small animal.
It is.
Yeah. Was it my turn now?
It is your turn now.
Okay. So, obviously guilt-ridden and very upset, Shadow and Chance go on without her. Shadow talks about how it was his responsibility to love her and protect her, and that's what his role is with the whole family. That's what he has to do for Chance. That's what he has to do for Peter. And that it's the job of dogs to watch over their humans in the family. Chance scoffs at it, basically saying that, well, we never asked for that job. And later goes on to say that one day he hopes to become wise like Shadow. So I guess it's kind of like a coming-of-age pet movie.
It is for pets,
yeah.
Yes. So he's learning from the wise old Shadow here.
Meanwhile, unknown to them, Sassy does survive and, as you said, is found on the riverbank by an old man named Quentin, who happens to be out bird watching. He has also passed.
Yes.
He nurses her back to health at his little remote cabin in the woods. Where does he get his food? Like, how does
he hunt?
How does he live?
That's the hunt.
Okay. And then he apparently gives her milk from a goat. Where does he have a goat? Do you ever see the goat?
We do not see the goat.
No. Anyways, over the next 2 days, Shadow and Chance try unsuccessfully to catch food. Chance gets bit by a crawfish, and Shadow laughs at him and says that Sassy would have loved to have seen that, because Chance can't fish like Sassy can. Meanwhile, Kate has come home and greets Frank, and there becomes immediate confusion about the note, the pets, what's going on, where are they? They immediately call the park service to report the pets and to hopefully have them found. The children are devastated when they hear the news. I do feel bad for Kate because it wasn't her fault, but at the same time, you know, if you're the family, you've left your animals to these people and now they're not there anymore. Peter says they should go out and find the animals, but Bob shoots it down immediately, saying that they need to be realistic and that they'd likely never be able to find the animals in the wilderness. Well, that just pisses Peter off. He storms off, yells at Bob, saying it's all his fault. Right? Like you said, he's not a Bob fan.
No.
At work the next day, before running off to a meeting, we do see Bob, I guess, trying to redeem himself by printing lost pet signs to be handed out. As they move on, Shadow and Chance encounter a mountain lion. Chance sees it first. Shadow doesn't believe him because he doesn't see it, because the lion hid. But then when he does see it, he tells Chance to run. The lion then chases them to the edge of a cliff. Chance yells that it's like being chased by Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I thought you would like. Shadow gets an idea to use rocks positioned like a seesaw as a way to outsmart the mountain lion. When Shadow acts like bait, Chance pounces onto the end of the rock and sends the mountain lion over the edge into the river.
Yeah, so when the dogs are fishing, I have here the mountain lion spots the dogs from a distance and starts tracking them. Mm-hmm. Chance spots the mountain lion and tries to warn Shadow that the mountain lion is coming close, but Shadow has his head in the water and doesn't hear. Finally, Shadow lifts his head out of the water long enough for Chance to warn him. The scene was shot in cuts. Here we go again.
Yeah.
Filming the dog. This had to have been quite a tedious, very meticulous
so I got to give it its just due because it does seem very seamless.
A lot of work went into this, yes. And you're right. When we're seeing it on film, it does look quite seamless here. So a variety of the shots were A to B were filmed with the mountain lion in different locations. The dogs plan to get rid themselves of the mountain lion by playing a trick on him using an old seesaw routine and Shadow as bait. They maneuver the mountain lion out of the ledge and juts over the cliff. The entire area where the was worked was all fake rocks made from hard styrofoam, and the plan is for Chance to jump on the other edge of the jutting area and catapult the mountain lion over the side of the cliff. Their trick is nearly ruined by the mountain lion who is about to pounce when Chance is distracted and becomes fascinated momentarily by a butterfly that flies in front of him. For this scene, silk butterflies were glued to the end of a fishing line and dangled in front of Chance's face. The dog succeeds and catapults the mountain lion quite a distance into the river below. The scene was shot in cuts in a very realistic look. The fake mountain lion going over the cliff, and when the mountain lion crossed A to B, the dogs were not present, and the mountain lion was filmed separately, and the dog was filmed numerous times jumping onto a platform. All of this footage was edited together to make it look as though the mountain lion had been catapulted.
Yes. It's yeah.
So yeah, you guys
and it went really far.
Very tedious work, and it's just, again, adds to the charm of this movie, and I bet the kids in the theater when they're watching at the time got a good chuckle out of this. So
yes.
Disney magic at work.
I did some more research.
Okay.
It was filmed in Oregon.
Okay.
That's where all the
of
scenery
sense.
is. And it was filmed between August through October of 91.
Okay.
And so like they would have to like travel far into the wilderness to get those types of views.
And also here, there's another little note here about him making Chance making 2 Arnold Schwarzenegger references. Hey, nicknames are.
Yeah, the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
And he also says "Hasta la vista" when he
Oh,
throws him in
yes.
to the drink, which Arnold said in Terminator 2: Judgment Day
Your
from
favorite
'91.
movie.
Yes, 100% movie. Whenever it comes up on this podcast as a bonus episode, because we're sticking to our anniversaries this year. If we happen to get to it this year, can mark it in right now. It's 100% flawless movie.
Never seen it.
One of the greatest.
What if I give it a 50?
Yikes.
You'll probably cry.
I probably will.
Okay. So after the scene with the mountain lion, the dogs are obviously cheering by barking in celebration. Sassy hears them and follows the sound to rejoin them. There's a big reunion. Sassy is seen kind of, snuggling up against Shadow. It's really cute. I don't know how they got it to be so endearing, but anyways.
I have the note
you do.
coming up.
Anyways, and they tell each other how much they missed one another.
Okay, so when Sassy has fully recuperated and wants to get back to Shadow and Chance and her family, so she leaves the cabin and runs off to find them. They have a very happy reunion, as you alluded to. They increase the joy of this reunion with some cat food, which is strategically placed on the dogs' faces to ensure that the cat would nuzzle the dogs. After the reunion, they have a fish feast along the riverbank and eat their fill of fish. There was a pile of fish alongside them at the riverbank, and the fish were fake rubber fish.
Okay, well that makes sense on why she was rubbing up against them. Pretty sure if we put
cat food on
Aiden, Phoebe would go over
and lick it
off.
Which, much to Aiden's
chagrin,
dismay.
he won't be happy. So as the animals continue on their way, Chance begins pestering a porcupine. As you said, is very curious and adventurous. Tries to go sniff his butt because that's what dogs do, and ends up with a load of quills in his muzzle, and it looks really painful. Sassy even tries to pull them out. She says she's a professional, but even she is unsuccessful, and we're led to believe that it's more severe than, just a simple splinter in one's hand. So, I think if you're a fan of Chance, you're worried at this point that it's not going to end well.
Yeah, so I have here the porcupine scene was shot in cuts, and the real porcupine and a fake dog were used. They allowed the
fake dog?
Yes. So probably a mechanical dog. I'm assuming where do you get a fake dog, right? Fake dogs are us. They allowed the porcupine to hit the fake dog to show contact. Then rubber porcupine needles were attached to the side of Chance's face with spirit gum, which is a substance that actors use to apply beards and mustaches to their faces. To give the impression that Sassy is trying to pull out the needles, cat food was placed on the dog's face, and the cat went for the cat food naturally.
Of course. Fake dogs are us.
Yeah, what is a fake dog? Like, I just keep seeing that in notes. What is
it? Must be mechanical with, like, very lifelike coloring.
Features.
Yeah, exactly. Because you could have fooled me. I honestly thought it was
a real dog.
And that I thought the porcupine was fake.
No, that's real.
Okay. Anyway, so as they're continuing on, the animals then encounter a little girl named Molly, who is also lost in the woods. How did
this kid survive? I don't get it.
I don't think she was there as long as they were.
No, but still, perception of this is the wild, this is not fit for man or beast out here, and then you have this little girl.
And she doesn't look too hurt.
No,
she looks pretty pristine. But anyways, loyalty instinct takes over, and the 3 pets stand guard over her during the night. In the morning, Shadow hears a rescue party and leads them back to the girl by barking. They recognize the animals from the missing pets flyer. Good job, Bob, I guess. And they call the family to let them know. The park rangers take the pets to the local animal shelter, but Chance freaks out, saying that it's the pound, and that cues the panic from the trio. As the medical staff try to remove the quills from Chance's muzzle, Sassy sneaks in and frees Shadow from his locked-in area. Together they retrieve Chance and escape the shelter, run away from the big fat guys, unaware that their owners are on their way to get them. So like it's funny because as you see the animals go one way, you see the Seaver Burnford's truck go right by them.
By them.
Like it's like
Just misses them.
Just misses them.
And of course it adds
Thank you, Disney.
to thicken the plot of our story.
Yeah. So when the pets finally reach their hometown, they have to cross through a train yard. I also didn't like this part because I got scared with the cat. The cat almost got hit by a train but narrowly misses it. You're going to probably tell me it was a fake cat. The trains weren't even there. But anyways, she's okay. But unfortunately, Shadow falls into a muddy pit and injures his leg. They do a really good job at making that look realistic. I felt really awful.
There is a note about that.
Okay. At this point, I think they wanted to leave us with the assumption that he's not going to make it, especially as he tells Chance and Sassy to go on without him. And even when Chance argues back, Shadow tells him that Chance has learned all he needs. And then Shadow says, now all you have to learn is how to say goodbye. Oh my God, Disney, why do you do that? That's awful.
Tearjerker. So when Shadow falls into the pit and injures his leg, the dog never actually fell into the pit. When he stepped onto the boards, they broke and there was a platform there immediately below. The fake dog, here we go with the fake dog again, was dropped into the pit, and these scenes were edited together. Shadow tries to get out of the pit and is large and deep and muddy, and then keeps slipping back into the pit because he cannot get a good grip. To accomplish this scene, special pit was dug, which was about 3 to 4 feet deep. For the sliding back and forth, one trainer was on top of the pit calling the dog. Another trainer was on the bottom telling the dog to stay. When he did, he would naturally start sliding downward. The dog could actually walk on his own at any time and did so several times during this filming. When Shadow does appear to be at the end of the film reunited with Peter, Shadow runs with a limp. This is accomplished by putting a round wooden bead between the dog's toes. The bead did not actually hurt the dog in any way, but gave him a peculiar sensation, causing him to walk with a limp.
Oh. But like you said, it was a fake dog. So.
Yeah, so.
They really used
Disney
a lot of resources. Oh
here.
My goodness, Disney. The family has now returned home after finding out that their animals had escaped once again. They're outside and they hear Chance barking. He comes up over the hill and you can see the happy reunion between him and Jamie. Sassy is scooped up into Hope's arms, but time passes and Peter is left waiting for Shadow. And when the time seems to be going too long, he admits that Shadow was an old dog and it was probably too much for him. So he's being realistic. He's trying to be mature about it. But cue the Disney happy ending where Shadow limps into view and then magically runs whenever he sees Peter. And then they hug and then cue my intense crying.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Chance then narrates how it was Shadow's belief that brought them home and how the years seemed to lift off of him, making him a puppy again as he reunited with his boy. The film ends with Chance musing about how he truly feels to be finally at home with his family before happily running into the house at the smell of food because I think the mother just cooked turkey.
So we're gifted here with a happy ending and cue the credits. And that will wrap up the Homeward Bound Incredible Journey.
I didn't cry during this pod.
Didn't cry during this pod, which is good. So we have final thoughts, and we'll give our scores here, what we think of this movie at the end. I'll go first this week. So this movie, you talk about Disney magic. This is a magical movie. Everything is in the right place. I've learned a lot about the magic of filming with dogs and fake dogs and bears and other mechanical devices and then multi-shots, but you can never tell here that there's any holes in this movie, that everything just is seamlessly put together nicely. It is pleasant to watch. The scenery is amazing. Don't know much about the original, but kind of makes me want to go back and watch the original now instead of the sequel. I said I'm not a huge proponent of sequels, but I do like this movie. I think Michael J. Fox is charming in the role as Chance. Don Amici in one of his final roles here, his actual final role would be Karina the next year, so it is good to hear his voice here. I do actually like him a lot, but again, sad that he had to be subjected to
he was great in Folks.
He was, but what a misfire. I have Sally Field, who doesn't really sound like Sally Field here as
Yes,
Sassy,
it does.
but
Yes, she does.
nonetheless,
She's lovely.
Sassy is a great character here as well. And I'm going to go ahead and give this movie, as Roger Ebert said, it's just charming enough that if you're watching it with a child, to enjoy it and see movies like this through the eyes of children.
When you watch it with your partner who acts like a child.
Who acts like a child, but nonetheless, I'm going to give this a solid score of 87%.
Yeah, I guess that's a solid score. So, obviously, a movie that makes me cry. Happy Tears is, it wins points. It's definitely Disney-esque. In watching it with the subtitles, I enjoy that because then I really get to hear their little witty jokes.
Yes.
It's really quite clever. I like all three pets and how they work together or how they relate together. While Chance might not be my favorite out of the three, doesn't mean I hate him. I think Michael J. Fox did a fantastic job for that role. I love Shadow. He's so wise. Sassy the cat is adorable. And I just don't see anything necessarily wrong with this movie except maybe Bob. I don't like him. He drives me nuts. The mother kind of drives me nuts too, but besides them...
We don't really see them on screen that much, though.
But the kids are good.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're, I just find that this movie is more believable and realistic and enjoyable than what others may think. And so I'm going to give this a 95%.
Okay, so at 95 and 87, what is the overall score for the Homeward Bound Incredible Journey?
So that gives us an average of 91%, which puts it... Oh, I didn't even put that in there. Hold on. Which puts it smack dab between Tootsie at 91.5% and The Karate Kid at 90.5%.
Seems pretty fitting. So this is in the Club 90s here, which is...
Yep, Club A's.
Fitting, yeah.
Yep.
And...
Nobody has still downloaded Tootsie.
Come on. And that's what I have to say quick here again. Just because you don't like the movie or know the movie, at least maybe give it a chance. Listen to the episode. It might actually kind of prompt you to want to go out of your way and watch this movie. Tootsie's a great movie. I don't know why it gets no love. 0 downloads.
Well, remember I told you how I've just now met some new friends.
Yes.
Replaying Heyday, and I know that some of them are listening to
Please
our pod
download.
Now. So thank you. And
Yes.
This is a hi from me to you guys. They've gone back to the very beginning.
Okay.
So
sense.
they've listened to Speed. So they might get there to Tootsie. So we might get 1 or 2 downloads on that one.
Okay.
But yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, it is a great movie. So if you have not seen it, it's 41 years old now. So next week we have coming up another anniversary piece. We're going back 10 years for this one.
Never seen it.
And she's never seen it. I've seen it once in the theater. Don't remember much about it, so it'll be kind of refreshing to go ahead and review this next week. But next week we have coming up a contemporary comedy, which is The To-Do List is coming up.
Oh my goodness, I just did a
snafu here.
I'm sorry.
So we have the trailer coming up here in a moment.
Yeah, 1 second.
Technical difficulties.
I'm sorry.
Hello, welcome to Big Barn. May I help you? I've decided to lose my virginity to Rusty Waters. Do you want fries with that? No.
What's the plan?
I'm engaging, smart. Once I add sexually experienced to the package, he'll totally want me.
Is this shorts or a skirt?
Neither, they're skirts.
That chick is crazy. Yeah, I know what you mean. I like it.
I get it. Not having sex is a big deal. It's this. All this feelings and emotional crap. Duh.
You Sue?
What, this little thing?
I want to put your top back on.
Oh my god!
I have bigger boobs than you.
Today, my boss made fun of me in front of this incredibly hot college guy. Shocker. Shut the front door, Amber. Shut the back door.
Not the back door.
What?
There's doors we don't do.
George.
Pass the potatoes, please.
So based on that trailer, what might we discuss when we review the to-do list next week?
You know where she slid down the slide and her
Totally
top came
happened
off?
to you.
It already happened to me. I've told you that story. Oh my god, that's embarrassing. So I feel for her. Maybe it won't be so bad as what I thought.
It looks pretty
Funny.
ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous, and that's what sometimes it's fun to do those type of movies and see where it might.
Want to be kind of like Ted?
I think it might be, but Ted's it.
I'm trying to think of other ones that we've done that are like this.
Maybe for a good time call, it
Oh,
looks a
yes.
lot like.
I forgot about that one.
Or maybe Rough Night, which no one else has listened to. Again,
That was a good one.
please listen. I mean,
That one was good. I like that one.
it was okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, is there anything else you want to talk about before we hit stop today?
On our 50th episode.
Yes, our 50th episode, which is thanks for all your patience, and we're back. Seems to be in full swing here. We're on time again, so that's good.
We're no longer late.
No longer late. Got to keep this good trend going here. So there should be some bonus episodes coming up in the month of January. I'm not sure yet.
We were going to do Arthur, but I hate it, so I don't know if we're going to.
I think Arthur doesn't get a lot of love either, much like Tootsie. This is one of the great eras of movie making was in the 1980s. This is early 80s at that, so Arthur could be in the running.
So if Arthur is your choice, then that means I get to pick a bonus?
Of course.
Yeah.
So I will think are we gonna go with Arthur? Is that what we're?
We can do Arthur as long as you're prepared. I'm going to give it a really awful score because I cannot stand it.
So Arthur is coming up along with the to-do list, and we'll finish out the month with a really, really corny movie that I don't know. Even I read in my research that one of the actresses didn't even want to do it. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see when we come up with that at the end of the month. But
Sounds good.
if there's nothing else, I just want to wish all the listeners a pleasant week and a thank you for listening. And that's Christopher saying goodbye.
And Amanda also saying goodbye and thank you. Keep following us and liking our things on Instagram. Have a great day.
Boom.